Good morning and welcome to another series in our local history. This morning we're very fortunate that we have Sue here. You finished? Sue's going to give us a bit of a rundown on the history of probably our leading suburb. Out of all our suburbs, a lot of them seem to be forgotten. I often wonder why, when they set up the latest, they carved the town up now into sections, why they didn't hang on to the old names like Meadowbank and Sunnyside and Red Hill. But anyhow, better brains than mine worked it out. Anyhow, again, I'll hand over to Sue, who's going to give us a bit, as I said, a rundown on Haven's history from the very beginnings of the suburb until now. Thank you. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for inviting me here today. It's quite funny. Rhonda called and she's invited me here today to speak to you all. And when I asked Rhonda, what would you like me to speak about? And she said, just all you know about Haven. Some of the early days, if you know it. So strap your seats in. So what do I know about Haven? Firstly, about myself, I'm Sue Excell, formerly Sue Lane, and I live at Haven now with my husband Gary, and we've got two daughters, Brianne and Kristen. Brianne lives at Haven as well. She's got three children, and she teaches at the Haven Primary School. So we've been able to keep one girl in Horsham. And our other daughter is Kristen. She lives in Melbourne. She's got four little people ranging from 10 down to 2, so she's very busy and doesn't get back to Horsham that often, but loves it when they do. So I'm actually the youngest of 7. You might know of some of my family. I've got my brothers Ray Lane and my sister Nancy Heinrich in Rainbow, my brother Daryl Lane, and my sister Bev Reynolds, who's quite involved with different things around Horsham with fashion parades and all sorts of things. My brother Eric Lane, my brother Kevin Lane, and myself. So there's quite a big crew of us. But unfortunately, I've lost Ray, Daryl, and Eric over the last few years. So my connection with Haven is my great-grandmother was Catherine Fulton, and known as Kate, and she ran a laying-in hospital in Stall Road, which is where the old Caltex used to be. So she had all these mums come. Quite often the Wimmera River was flooded, so the mums couldn't get across to the other hospitals. So she had hundreds of babies born there. So what's very interesting is Catherine Pell, I don't actually have a copy of the real book, the original book, but there is a little book handwritten with all the names of the babies, or the names of the mums that have come in. And it might be, for example, this one here is Mrs. A. Fulton. On the 30th of November 1912, gave birth to a little girl. And that was Catherine delivering her own granddaughter. So out of the 11 children that my grandparents had, Bert and Clara Fulton, Catherine actually delivered 9 out of 9 of them. So this little handbook, some of the family have that, and we've got some copies of the pages, which is really exciting. And when you look at the names of the babies, there's Parfitts, Clouses, Curtises, Cliffords, Winfields, Widdowsons, Currans, Bushbys, of course Fultons, Sawyers, Hoskins, O'Briens, Ballingers. There's so many different families, Landrigans, McGinniskins, that have all had their babies at that little hospital. So that's going back to how come I'm so interested in Haven. So when my grandparents were Bert and Clara Fulton, so they're the ones that had the 11 children, and they actually had my mum while they lived at Haven. Mum was born there in 1915. Then their family moved out to Wonwanda, but Mum always wanted to come back to Haven. So when they sold the farm, they bought property at Haven and later moved back there, which brought me to Haven to grow up from the time that I was 7. So, and I haven't moved. Built 2 homes there and one across the road and then back again. And so I'm pretty passionate about Haven. So, a bit of a go at this. I haven't actually timed it, so I'm not quite sure how long it's going to take. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see if we can get it moving. Sorry?
Either the space bar or the arrow soon.
Yeah, just try the arrow. That's not.
You can't hear it. You want to move it up closer of it.
So that's using that. Right, see which one I'm using there.
Use that one to go.
That one.
To go forwards. And the space should do it too.
Yeah.
You on that one?
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, this at the back to find them, but I have to hear.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Can you hear me now with that? Is that a bit better?
Much better.
Yeah. Sorry, I do have a soft voice. So this photo here is a photo of Catherine Fulton. She's nursing the little baby. It's her great-grandson, one of the little carpet boys. And that's a copy of the names that are in the little book that records all these families, hundreds of babies that were born there over the years. So with the start of Haven, back in 1910, if you're driving out to Haven, you veer off to the right to go to Haven, or you can head straight to go down the old Hamilton Road. That big parcel of land there was originally called the Horsham Common, and in 1910 it was decided that that would all be broken up into blocks of land for people to buy. And there were 126 people apply, or 126 applications for only the 33 blocks that were available. So that photo there, it's pretty fuzzy, sorry, is the actual V of the Horsham Common. And the list down the side are all the different names of the families that were allocated. And one of those blocks was my grandparents, Bert and Clara Fulton. So that was actually where the Haven Recreation Reserve is. You might have seen that where the market is. The block was right beside that. So this photo here is of Bert and Clara Fulton that had the 11 children, of which Catherine delivered 9. And that photo is for 3 of my 2 uncles and an auntie, and my mum is the youngest one there, Mona Lane, or Mona Fulton she was back in. So it's very convenient living right near the school. So Bert Fulton couldn't actually read, and Clara could. Bert was very generous with his time. He'd help with the petition to try and get a school at Haven, but he couldn't read the minutes. So Clara would go to the meetings with him so that she could read the minutes, so he'd know what was going on. But he pops up in quite a bit of the old Haven school history of working bees and going around with a petition to try and get names of all the kids that were not going to school. They either had to walk 5 miles to Mackenzie Creek or 5 into Horsham, or not go to school at all. And of course they preferred not to go to school at all. So another really important family was the O'Brien family. In 1912, Emily O'Brien opened up Haven's post office. And I reckon it was about £1 a year she got to run the post office. And they had a few family there as well. So, when we researched it, writing the Haven books, we found that it was Emily that named Haven Post Office, which became the Haven Primary School. So before then it was called the Horsham Common. So she's a very important lady in our history. So that's a picture of the old post office there. I remember I used to ride my little white horse. I only lived across the road, but I used to ride across and get the mail and come back again. So on the 1st of January 13, the Haven Primary School was opened. So that was after the community did a lot of work on petitioning, find out how many students they would have. So that was pretty exciting to have the school. And I do have records there of the Haven School teachers, and it appears that within the first 12 months, the first teacher had a nervous breakdown. So I guess it was trying to get all these unruly kids that had never been to school before to try and get them into the system and start to teach them how to read and write. So this photo here is a copy of the actual petition. I'm sorry, it's very fuzzy. But they were all the names of the families that they were collecting to push for a school to come to Haven. Originally it was a 1-bedroom building, and then eventually they did another room on the side of it. This photo here is of Emily O'Brien, and she was known to make a lot of soft animals, toys for the local kids. A lot of families were very poor out home. So she was known to do a lot of craft work to hand out to the local children, and also known to quite often be passing pies and food through to the fence, because they live right beside the school, to any of the families that didn't have any lunch to bring with them. So she's a very special lady. This is one of the school photos of the young farmers. They had a young farmers at the school, and they're out busy, bare feet, digging with his fork, putting in a veggie patch out the front. So that's one of the teachers there in the middle of that one. This is 1967 was when I was at the school. Wendy went to the Haven School as well. Wendy, did anyone else go to the Haven School? I think we had probably about 60 students there at the time. I actually had to walk through my parents built a house right opposite the school, so I actually had to walk through the tennis courts to get to the school. So, I arrived at Haven during grade 2, and I think on my first day, there was a young girl there that had beautiful long hair, plaits right down to her waist, and her name was Faye Eastwell. So that night when I went home, I said, Mum, I'm never cutting my hair again. I want long plaits like Faye's got. So I did exactly that. I had long hair for a really long time. So with the tennis club, we did a lot of research. We recently had our centenary. That was back in we finally got it done in 1921. COVID stopped us from getting it on the right date. The club was established officially in 1920, but the year before they'd had a come and try day, and they had about 30 come along that had never played tennis before, and that was the start of the Haven Tennis Club. So, yeah, very special. And I think looking back at it, there were teachers' names on the list. So I think the teachers had a fair bit to do with the actual tennis club getting started, and doing something for the community, because the Hayter family were right in amongst it, and the Fulton family. Just nice to have something that would bring the community together. So it's a great old photo. This one with the ladies with their long dresses and hats, and the men quite often with their braces. You might know from Betty Voigt lived at Haven for a long time. Yeah. So Betty provided these photos here, which were her family playing tennis at Haven years ago. They were very involved in the club. And you see they're actually on dirt courts. We started off with one court, and then because it was so popular, they made another one. And currently the courts that we have now, they're on the 4th site. So the first site was where my parents owned, right across from the school. And then I think the owners at the time needed that property. So then it came back to on the O'Brien property, which was right beside the school. And then it got bigger and it moved in front of the school. And now it's beside the school. So it hasn't moved far, but it's got bigger and bigger as time's gone on. There's some of our past players. Ralph Bellinger, some might remember Ralph Bellinger. There's always there's haters, lots of haters involved. Jack Hardingham, you might remember Jack. Alma Parrish and her family, Mary Avery, Bill Avery. They're all been amazing people on committees, building Haven up as it's gone along. So with myself, as I was saying, I used to walk through the school or through the tennis courts to get to school. So I've been involved on the tennis committee since 1972. So, and in that time I've been on the committee, president, treasurer, secretary, first lady president of the Central Wimmera that actually organises all the tennis comps. So I was the president there for 2 years, given a life membership in 1994. And in 2003, after a lot of practice, became a qualified tennis coach. That was after driving to Stall quite often with one of my mums. And we learnt underneath a level 2 coach down there of what we needed to do to teach the kids how to play tennis. We had so many kids, but they weren't all learning the right technique, so we needed to learn. So that was very exciting when we got our certificate to do that. It was quite daunting, actually. We did a lot of training with the coach in Stall, and then we had to go to Melbourne on this particular day and do a full day. The first morning was all theory. We had to, this is Judy Corrine and myself. we had to do a lot of lesson plans of how we were going to teach the kids the lessons. And then in the afternoon, we went to a big tennis stadium, and there were lots of stadiums, lots of young people, and lots of toys and balls and bats. And it was really, why are they toys here? Like frisbees and all sorts of things. And I remember we were sitting, Judy and I were looking at it. There was all these uni students there, and they were very good tennis players. They were doing top spin forehands and top spin backhands. And I know Judy and I looked at ourselves and think, we should just go home now, because we were way out of our league. But when the coaches came out to go through the program with us, they said, okay, now everybody put your racket in your non-preferred hand. Because they said, if you get out in front of a little kid and you're doing these beautiful big shots, you're going to scare them off. You need to come right back to basics and learn how to do it and teach it left-handed. So by the end of the night, we could even serve left-handed and not realising that we were doing it. And then they had things like frisbees. There's probably tennis players here, I'd say. If you think of you have a throw of a frisbee, it's the actual action of a topspin backhand when you throw that frisbee. And the same if you've got, there's a little vortex that you can throw that has got a tail on it. If you throw a vortex, it's the same as a serve. So if you've got little people, teaching them, they can get the action of a serve by throwing the vortex. And the other one was like a little sticky mitts. You might see the kids have got a ball that sticks to a little mitt. You throw it and it's the same as a volley. So that's where all the toys came in that we would use to be part of the coaching. So it was really valuable and a lot of fun, actually. So with our tennis, after doing all this for myself over the years, I was awarded in 2007 a Sports Star of the Year, and that was for tennis and netball, because I also was coaching netball at the time. We had little Haven netball teams, which was really exciting. And then in 2018, unbeknown to me, I'd been nominated for Tennis Victoria's Highly Commended Service Award, and I was awarded that. The club was very sneaky. I had no idea that that was happening, so that was very exciting. And junior coordinator, I've been doing that since over 35 years, so I'm still on the court, and we'll be doing that again this year. Obviously, I love tennis, so passionate to show the kids how to play. You might see the girl with the long plaits. That's me. I got my long plaits after a few years of growing my hair. That was my first junior premiership with the club in 1969. I've been involved in a lot of tennis premierships, wins and losses. One of the ultimate in our tennis club was achieving winning the pennant in 85, 86. So we had a pretty amazing young team then, and we finally won a tennis premiership, and we won quite a few after that, which was very exciting. So that's a few of the tennis shots from over the years. So with the tennis club, some of you, if you've been involved, you might remember surfacing the club with coalesce and sawdust. You had to, seal off all the cracks in the courts, and it was a messy job, but one of the many working bees that we've done over the years. And working bees are a lot of work, but you have a lot of fun as well. We're a very strong club. So we've resurfaced courts. We've demolished courts, the old courts in front of the school. They were starting to crack and the kids were starting to fall over. They were slipping on the repair work. So we had to pull them down. And then we built new courts. This photo Yeah, it was when we opened 4 brand new concrete courts, and it was all done by voluntary labour. It was a massive job. We'd been given a grant to build 4 asphalt courts, but because they cracked, they were saying, "Why are you building asphalt? You should be building concrete." So we had to provide all the labour ourselves, and it was tradesmen donating their time weekend after weekend to build the most amazing tennis courts at Haven. So if you're ever out that way, please have a look at our courts. You might notice that they're actually concrete, they're just grey concrete courts. We didn't have enough money to paint them, and we'd invited a Tennis Victoria, the funding people, to come out and have a look, because when the sun came out, they were that bright you couldn't see. It was sort of like someone was looking over us. The guy come out on the tennis court and the sun come out, and he said, "Oh, geez, I can't see." Said, "Yeah, we need some money to paint these courts." So fortunately, we got some funding, and that's a photo of the men with squeegee mops running all the paint over top. It was funny, they had football boots on and skateboards. But why do you have football boots when you're building tennis courts? He said, "Well, if we have to walk on the paint, it's only going to leave little dots with the stops in the boots. And if they were doing any repair work, they would sit on the skateboard and move along slowly, so they didn't have to bend their backs all the time." So there was definitely a purpose for the footy boots and the skateboards. We could actually write a book about building tennis courts and the issues you have. We built 8 asphalt courts near the hall, and before they were finished, they cracked. So they had to be all rotary hoed up and done again. It was poor David Eltingham at the council. I think it was a nightmare. So then we fixed those all up, got them all set up, and then they had cracks in them again, and then we had the flooding, and down one end the courts were flooded. So we put our hands up for some flood damage, and we ended up with a $1.3 million upgrade of asphalt courts into concrete courts, which now has given us 12 beautiful courts. So sometimes you can be very lucky and saving at the right time. We've coached lots of juniors. It's always been our passion to develop the juniors, and I know Judy Crane was a huge helper. We've had so many volunteers over the years helping us with our junior programs. That's why my knees are wrecked these days. So that's a lot about tennis, and it still continues. We're in the middle of getting it started again this season. More history about the Haven area was in the very late 1800s, there was a rail line that went from Horsham out to Mackenzie Creek, horse-drawn wagons, and then at picnic time or around Easter, they would load those wagons up with families and take them out to the Bungalally Creek for picnics. So I love this photo of, and I'm sorry it's fuzzy, but those 2 wagons are loaded with families. There would be coppers, all chairs and food and kids and mums and dads, and they all load up from Horsham right through to Haven and then take them out to the Bungalally Creek for picnics. So they would have had the most fabulous time. And this is another great, it's obviously getting bigger. The last one was 2 wagons and this one is 3. And you can see on the front there, they've got all the chairs, all the chairs strapped on out the front. So they loaded them up and they're going to head out to the creek for picnic time. This one is a great photo of someone doing pole vaulting. No mats, obviously, right back then. And you can see in the background, everyone's they've all got their leg in the air trying to help him get over the top. Pretty fascinating photo, that one. So you can sort of see in that one the big old cars in the background and lots of families. They would have had a lovely time.
So while you're talking about that picnic there, you got any idea of the location where that was? Like, was it near the Hendy or further out to the quarry or where?
Well, I think we think it might be, there's a Bungalally Creek and then the Mackenzie Creek,
Yeah.
and we think it may have been in that area.
Where about where McGee's lived?
Yeah, across the road from where McGee's lived.
Oh,
We
yeah.
think it was.
Well, where the Wilds and the Eagles were.
Yes, yeah.
Aye.
Yeah, it was probably on, I doubt whether it would be on private land. It might have been on Crown land, but
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
yeah, but it would have been close to the railway line too, so it wouldn't have been too far for them
No.
to carry all the stuff. So then we've got our Haven Hall. That was built in 1953. Has seen lots of, actually was funded, the community funded to build that. They did lots of donations and gifts of money to build the hall. It was originally just the main building, but then in a few later years they put a kitchen onto it, and then later years again put the toilets into it. So it's been a really valuable asset to the Haven community. Currently, it's used probably 300 times a year of people coming in and doing different events. We have our play group is there Tuesday mornings, which is a lot of fun. But over the years, there would have been lots of cabarets and dances and fundraising events. There was a dead ball on stage. Yeah, lots of fun and probably lots of stories and lots of dances. So this one leaves a picture of the youth club. I think that was up at the Grampians. So that would have been based at Haven and taking the families out for different events. They've obviously had a bus there, taking a bus load out to something. Over the years, we've done a lot of work to the hall. It was pretty old buildings to start with, so we've got grants to put in new kitchens to make it as nice as we can. As I said, it's used all the time. So we have poured a fair bit of money into it, but it's still a really old building, and it hasn't got very good toilets. So really, we're in a situation now. We need a better building to be built, and there are plans for that to happen, which is pretty exciting. This is one of our projects, and that was paving out the back of the hall. I don't know if you've been to one of the markets or the events there, but volunteers again, that was just a big sand pile out the back. So we've got a bit more grant money, and I don't think I ended up with any fingerprints left on my fingers because with moving pavers and getting them in their places. So that was one of the best projects that we ever did out there, was to pave it and fence it and put in a barbecue area and make it more user-friendly for the different events that we're on. So it comes up really nice. We've ended up, the shade sails were part of our Black Saturday project, where we got some funding to do things for the community. So shading it was really important. I think that might have been market day. It does dress up quite nice, even though it's an old building. There was a wedding there one day, and we'd made up these big swales to pretty it all up. To the Haven Market, we've been running that now since 2007. It's a fundraiser for the community. We don't make a lot of money out of it, but it's more the social connection of people coming, have a cuppa, grab some cakes, or just sitting and talking to friends. And quite often you might see someone who's perhaps lost their partner, and it's not long they're sitting, they're coming back out and they're catching up with friends. And that's the really nice part about the market, is it just keeps people connected and keeps me busy. So it's been going since 2007, so it's nearly 20 years old. I'm luckily, my sister-in-law Leslie Lane is able to run it now if I'm away, so it does give me a little bit of time off or get away over the winter, which we have just been away for 7 weeks, so it was really nice. So these part of the market again. During the summer we can set the stalls up on the lawns, which is a really nice atmosphere out there, and creates a really nice space for people to sit and have a cuppa, or come and buy some of the Marquezine cakes. The Teresa and Mary, they come at every market. I think they probably miss about one a year, and they make the most delicious cakes, but you need to be there early, cakes and slices. And I think might have been last year they did something like 500 kilograms of tomatoes. So you can imagine the amount of time and effort. And then once they do that, then they donate all that to projects. Like it might be the Cancer Council. I think last year they gave $5,000 to the Haven Primary School. So they do an amazing job, the girls. We've got some great plants. We've got this one here. I think might be some orchids in that one. I'm a bit of an orchid. Every time there's orchids there, I think, yeah, I better buy that one. Over the years, we've also had football club. And the football oval for that, where the Haven General Store is, it was out behind the Haven store up in the sand behind there. So it'd be nice if it was still running, but I don't know whether we would ever be able to get one back up running, but it's certainly, would be nice to have football and netball for the community. That was a 1939 premiership, which was pretty special. Different coloured jerseys this time. They've got the black and gold. So then Black Saturday was on Saturday the 7th of February. You might remember that day.
Yeah.
It was terrible. It was a terrible day. So leading up to it, because it was a Saturday, so it was a tennis day. So we managed to cancel the juniors just in case, because it was going to be so hot. And then that morning we had to wait till it got to 40 to cancel the seniors. And then, because it was 40 at about, 9:30. And it was also a market day. So everything was happening at Haven that day. But it was the winds were getting up quite bad, and a lot of people have got gazebos. So look, if you want to get going, just head home early. We can transfer your site fees to next month. Just come back again. So eventually we had the market packed up by probably 12 o'clock. And a lot of the stalls, they take a lot of setting up and packing up. So fortunately, we got them out early. And then in that afternoon, you could smell the smoke, and that was when the fire was heading our direction. This one here, you might know Elaine Milbourne from Elaine. This is taken from Elaine's roof across the road from her house, the home of Mark Douglas. So it was like that. The whole of Haven was like that photo. The whole of Haven was burning. It was a terrible day. So at the end of it, Molly Cutchy had lost her home in Oz Road. The Memory Home, Jack, they weren't living there at the time, but their home, long-term family home, that had gone. Mark and Karen Smith, just down from our place. They'd lost their home. Frank and Marge McCoonan, just down a bit further out on the left, going out of town. They lost their house overnight. Ronnie Hayter, one of our tennis legends, he lost his home. Then, of course, the golf club. Ryan's Removals. This house wasn't actually, it was a little weekender. That one was burnt as well. That wasn't actually in the tally, so it probably should have been 8 houses lost. And then a lot of other houses were damaged quite badly as well. This one survived it, but only just. That was a tank. It was a tractor. Wallace's friends across the road from us, they saved their house. They had no water, so they had to use sand and branches to try and save their home, which they did. That was their shed. Old Annie Gould, who lived near the Rec Reserve, she managed to keep her house. Boats, tanks. That was my fence out the back. It was right at the back of our place. I lost budgies. And down at the Rec Reserve, our little playground was really badly damaged. Even the sand was burnt. It was that hot. So our little rockers all had to be replaced. We did have a little chipboard. It was a recycled chipboard slide. It was beautiful. We painted it all up and it had it looking really nice. All was left was a bit of metal on the ground. It was just all completely destroyed. So our volunteer firefighters and private units did a fabulous job around the area trying to save. This is at our Rec Reserve. We had a nice little wetlands out the back. That was all the trees and that had been burnt through there. That was at the Ward property in Hunts Road. That was when the fire was heading towards their place, so pretty frightening for them as well. Obviously tough on the animals, like the birds were thirsty, and one of our local families, they were doing up old bikes for the local kids, and they all were burnt. And that was at the Ward property. This one here's at the golf club. It's very burnt. So, but then out of bad things can come good things, which is grants. So after the fires, though, I had a knock on my door. The first one was a phone call, and that was, I think, on the Sunday. It was the Hugh Delahunty and the local mayor. Can you come with us for a drive? We need to see what's happened at Haven. So I went to have a look around and show them the places that we'd lost. And then probably 2 days after that, another knock on my door, and that was 2 of our retired farmers that lived at Haven, Barry Painter and one of our other farmers. And they're saying we need working bees. We need to help these people to do projects, to help with fencing, to tidy. So we've got working bees happening to help people with that. So there's a lot of time, but people really appreciated what you could do. There were so many people affected. So projects, Black Saturday projects, losing our little recycled playground, which was very well used, but it allowed us to get some grant money to build a beautiful new playground with shade sails. And we were also able to get funding to do the barbecue, the community barbecue. no cost to the community, just come and use it, with shade sales over that as well. Our little playgroup, that was one of our bushfire projects, started off by the council, and that was to just make sure the young families were keeping in contact in the recovery from the fires. One of our little projects, my poor Gary, we were at the airport in Melbourne and I saw a little dual height bubble tap. And I thought, oh, that's a good idea. Gary, can you make me a dual height bubble tap for the little kids? So he made that for down at the rec reserve. Otherwise, you've got to lift the little kids up all the time and the playgroup thing is lovely. They get their little buckets and tip all the water in the sand and make a mess. So playgroup has been fabulous for the community and it's still running. It started in 2010. It's all run by volunteers and we've had up to 30 families come and some of them have got 2 to 3 little people with them. So we use the hall, which is great because warm in the winter and cool in the summer. The lawns are great for the little kids here. You can see they're outside with paint on their feet, running up and down the paper. The other one there is at my sister-in-law's Anne's place. We take them on little trips and we go and feed baby calves or go and look at baby foals or baby pups. Or sometimes we'll go on a convoy from my place, from the hall to my place. We've got berries, we grow strawberries and blackberries and raspberries. So we'll do a little playgroup convoy. And I think last time we had 16 cars following me down the road, running 800 metres down the road. They'll park in our front paddock and the little kids will come and pick strawberries and raspberries and then we'll take them back to the hall and they eat them with ice cream or yogurt. So they love convoy day and all the neighbours think, well, what the heck's going on? Is that a funeral or something? No, it's just playgroup going for a little tour. So we have little tables that we set up. We do craft with them. So it's quite busy. Sometimes this one lady's brought a little pup to show them. Quite often my brother Kevin will come down with baby chickens and show them the chickens. So as far as Haven history, I'm really glad that Wendy's here today and Bob. I don't know whether you've seen these or not. I'll just show it, John. I've got them here with me. This one here is our book that we wrote, Haven's Heritage from the Common. And we have Haven's Heritage, Our Families. There was so much work involved. There'd been grant money to do books. I thought, oh yeah, we'll get someone to do a book for us, not realising it would be us doing it. So fortunately, back in 1978, there was a big community group with the school and they ran an event, a Back to Haven event in 1978. And as part of that, they wrote this little Our Haven book. So it's only got 90 pages in it, but it was the most valuable information that we could use because it was straight from a lot of the families that have written in it. So we turned this little book of 90 pages into those 2 big books. The big blue book is how many pages, Wendy? 400. Yeah. I think the big blue book has 469 pages, and the orange, the purple one has 249 pages. So when we knew that there was money available for books, we called a committee meeting, and Bob was there, and Wendy, Helen Kirkpatrick, and quite a few other people come to try and get history for this book. So how we worked it is the centenary of Black Saturday, 12 months later, coincided with Haven being 100 years old. So we worked night and day, gathering. Wendy and Helen did so much work talking to the families. We had 79 different families in the Red Book, and they would all provide stories of their life in Haven. And I think it was it Wendy, or might have been Helen, said you'd ask someone, oh, we don't have anything interesting in our life. And then next thing, just with a couple of little points or and out would come these amazing stories about their life at Haven. So we've been able to document those families, and then also after the little Haven book was printed, Betty Voigt called at my place one day and she said, I've got a feeling that you're going to be hanging around Haven for a while. Is it okay? Could you take the history of what we've done, which was all a history of the school, the football clubs? It all came to live at my place. I'm lucky I've got a fairly big house. So we worked really hard. So in the big blue book, we've got the stories of how Haven came to be. It was really the start of the blocks, when the blocks were all split up, and the local families, about stories of the post office, of course, and the school, and the tennis and the netball, and the churches. Everything is in that book. So if we ever need to know anything now, we can just look it up. But now that was, quite a few years ago, so we're living history all the time. So, but to actually document it was fabulous. And also Brian Murray from Horsham Colour was fabulous at helping us to put the book together, because we just take it in little bits and pieces, and Anika Hart was there and she'd bring it all together for us. Bob did so much research on the early years of Haven developing right back to the early settlers. So that's all in there as well. So it was lucky I can touch type in my sleep, because it was really hard work, but absolutely worth the effort. But then at the end of the book, we were able to include the fire stories. So that was talking to the families who lost their homes. But please don't feel obliged to tell a story, because it would be so hard to do that when you've lost your home. But quite a few of them did, and they're all in the book. We've also spoken to the C of A volunteers, and basically when I'd ring them, I'd say, what was it like in your boots that day? What was it like on the back of a truck, like a fire truck, fighting that fire? So that story, there's, I think, 2 or 3 of those in the book. We also had the water bombers in the air, rang them. What was it like in a plane that day, bombing what you could, running out of water, trying to get more water on? So that's gone in. Local fire policemen, what was it like standing on the corner, turning people away from their homes? What was it like that day in your boots? So we've tried to gather as many stories as possible. And it was one of the best things to finally get it launched and to be finished and get back to our families, basically, after all that work. So other projects that we've done, I'm not sure how much time's going in. Anzac Park, which is in front of the school, we've landscaped it. We've built toilets. We've built. This is our artists working on there's a time capsule that we've built. If you're ever over near the public toilets at Haven, it's in the shape of an old a burnt stump, and it's got a secret compartment underneath, and we've got a lot of stories in under there of their stories from Black Saturday and onwards. And then on the top of it, it's got a glass display area, which has got little ornaments out of Molly Cutcher's house. Kevin Wallace's melted lawnmowers, just so many little things in there. So if you ever out at Haven, have a look. We also built the big, the big picnic gazebo out there that's got what have we got, 8 history boards, and all that history comes from the book. And it's got like the story of the soldiers. We've done a lot of work on the soldiers as well. Really interesting story of James Plozza, who, here we go, we're off and running. James Plozza lived in Plozza's Road, and in World War One, he'd been riding through the Red Cross, riding back to the Haven School. The school had written letters to James, and he'd replied. And at the time he was in Egypt, he was fit and he was well, but it was hot, there was fleas and there was flies. And he was looking forward to his next posting was at Fromelles. And the date, within a month, he'd been killed over at Fromelles. So we're hoping to do a story about that. We've got our picnic gazebo that we can do some murals on. And that's one really important story because it picks up the Red Cross, the school, and the soldiers, and that really amazing story of James. So we've also built our World War One monument, which has got the names of all of our soldiers. The next project there is to get some funding to do the World War II soldiers. So it never stops at Haven. We're always doing something, and I've always got Gary on a shovel putting in a post or something. There he is. Got his yellow top on, building something. So volunteers, we've been really lucky with a great group of volunteers. This is our little Anzac Cove, where we've got the red poppies that come out. So that's pretty special. The school quite often come across and do their Anzac Day and Remembrance Day. These are our storyboards that we've written. That's the story of, the red one is Black Saturday, orange is early years. The gold colour one is Welcome to Haven. That's the early settlers. Worship and War, the churches, and might see in this one over here, that one, is James Plozza's. We've got a copy of James Plozza's letter where he's writing to the students. So if you ever get a chance to have a look, it's very special. Living and Learnings about the school. And the purple one, the one with the horse in it, that's my brother Eric, driving Haven Hero when he was had a trotter in the races, and Kevin McGee with his motorbike. Kevin actually helped open the gazebo when we did that. And these last two are about the importance of the water, because Haven was an irrigation area, and really valuable information there that we've been able to put together. That's our time capsule, where was on the little white table there is all our little things that we're about to put into the top of it. And our awesome volunteers that brought all of our events together. We had the anniversary. That's what our old toilets look like. Pretty disgusting. Now we've got some beautiful new toilets. This one here is part of our irrigation story of the plans for the irrigation coming to Horsham, where they started doing all the irrigation channels. So it's really important. Got my little granddaughters we went to visit, and they were allowed to do a little bit of painting on it, so they're a bit very special. And then this is our remembrance rails, where you can, if you've got a special person or memory, you can have a padlock engraved and lock it onto the remembrance rails. So there's families that'll put them in, people that have lost their homes, yeah, it's quite something special for the locals to, or anyone to put them on. And then we had, of course, the anniversary, the 10-year anniversary of Black Saturday, and we were lucky to have the Governor, Linda Dessau, and her husband or partner come. They put padlock on as well, and got to see our time capsule. We took them on a bus trip around Haven, showed them where the homes were lost and the new homes have been built. So then what's next? There's always something happening. Our next plan is to develop the Haven tennis courts into a regional tennis centre with lights, improved services, and a beautiful new building that will replace the old hall. And that once it becomes regional, then there can be tennis tournaments 12 months of the year because they're hard courts. Lawn have got a beautiful facility, but they can't do events over the winter. So the plan and the council are right behind doing this. The staff have been working, doing lots of meetings to try and develop this project. We've only been waiting 32 years for this to happen. So as long as it happens, I don't want to be dead before it happens. I need to be able to celebrate this when it finally does work. So the sports at Haven will be obviously tennis. They're looking at doing big soccer fields. Seem to think that the stats are that soccer is the way to go now because it can be girls and boys and not as, I suppose, hard on the bodies. A lot of footballers get hurt. And it's so a big new soccer facility, a new home for the market. And we've got the space to do it. And the other project that we're really trying to push for is a bush kinder out at Haven and other children's services. We've got beautiful locations out the back for bushwalks, and I don't know whether we'll quite find a koala, but there's hundreds of kangaroos and wallabies out there. But you never know, if we plant the right trees, we might get a koala. And that's it. So thank you very much. And I suppose as for Rhonda, I suppose I do know a little bit about Haven these days after these events that have happened. So.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sue. Quite evident in life that some people make things happen, some people watch things happen, and some people wonder what happened. Well, fortunately, Sue was one of the people that have made things happen. And I know some time when we used to live out there, Sue was often referred to as the official mayoress of Haven.
Yes.
But you've done a good job, Sue, out there, and thank God you've been there where you do with more people like you around here. We have all sorts of committees and we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but there's not many doers. Well, thank goodness you're a doer.
Thank you.
And thanks again for sharing that story with us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, get your clobber out of the road.
That's it. There's so much, isn't there?
You've done well.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've done well. Very interesting. Yeah, good to come through.
Disconnect me or put that out. Just show the one thing.
Yeah.
Just one little thing that I did want to show you. Was back in 2019, I was awarded an OAM, which is in here. It doesn't come out very often.
Oh, dear. Order.
It's an Order of Australia medal,
So they can hear at the back.
for the work that I've done with the community. Oh,
Yeah, so,
sorry.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
there we are.
Yeah, so back in 2019, I was awarded an OAM for work that I've been doing.
Right, that was prime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it turns out.
Yeah. Very surprised.
Yeah.
Now I get that.
So take it home. I mean,
See, hunches. I can have a look.
that's
Probably down the back.
Okay.
how's the temperature in here? Okay for you? Is it warm enough or too hot or? Okay.
Hello, me next.
Yes. Yes. You have to introduce. Yes.
Did you have anything to set up with?
Oh, good. And how you going?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Did you have anything on USB to go, or
Pardon?
did you have anything on USB to go for the presentation, or
Did I have anything, sorry?
for the presentation to go through the laptop, or
Well, through mine.
you've got yours?
Yeah,
Okay,
but I need light because I need to read. So,
all
but I
right.
think we can still see enough there
Yep,
anyway.
good. Let me change this. City to full. That will lose this, it's not working. See the full.
Do you want yours back?
I'll plug yours in.
HD and I.
Uh-huh.
HD.
HDMI to you. This one. And you run it.